Ladies and gentlemen, K Kim here. Welcome to the daily update. I hope you guys had a good day trading today. Market is down a little bit. We're down. There you go. We're down about 0.65% today on the S&P 500. Looking at the today's price action here, you can see that we initially gapped up. Was not able to hold. That was actually pretty decent sized gap up there. We faded, and then we hung in that moving average here for a little bit, actually throughout pretty much all throughout the whole day. And the last hour we saw that sellers coming in. Basically, I think any kind of a short-term traders stops must have been taken out in that vicinity there. But for the longest time, that moving average was holding up. And then once that level broke, you can see that the gap area did get filled. So let's actually remove that. So I think a couple things happening here. Market is switching things up a little bit because I think last night's video we talked about how, if we just kind of zoom out a little bit, you can see the moving average here. Usually we hold there, continue to move higher. We hold there, continue to move higher. This time we held there, we moved to the downside. So, but what happened was the gap was filled, and I think we mentioned yesterday it would have been better for the bears to gap it down instead of filling the gap, because when the gap gets filled, it does act as support. Not to mention we're back at this level now. You can see that moving average here, we're back at that level. We did get slightly below it on early May right here, initially gapped up, pulling back. So we still got these two little down gaps, smaller down gaps, and that's gonna help the bears. I think bulls failing to fill this gap, the entirety of it. From that, I think bears were able to kind of bring it down this time around, because you can see here, there was a big gap here, and that gap was filled entirety of it. So when we fell from it, and I think that's why that 50 MA or the 30 MA was able to hold. This time around, we have two small down gaps here in the micro term. And we talked about yesterday in the micro term, the sentiment is still bearish because you can see that we still got lower highs going there in the shorter term sense. But when we zoom out here, we can see that we still want to give benefit of the doubt to the buyers in the longer term perspective, because you can see that we are still in the vicinity of higher lows and higher highs. Again, in the short term, in the micro term, we still have lower highs here. So that's still the similar sentiment as of yesterday, right? Micro term bear sentiment, longer term bullish sentiment. So the gap got filled, and a lot of times when gap gets filled, it's going to act as support. So I expect to see some kind of bounce tomorrow, unless bears gap it down. Because gap got filled, that's a support. Bears don't want to deal with this level. That will be the best bet, will be then gapping it down. So let's talk about some of the levels here. So we just talked about that moving average, right? That we're just hanging around that vicinity. That's the same moving average here and here. I also put out, I believe that's 125 SMA. 125 SMA. And the reason why I put that one there is because you can see last time, and that was last time we saw a big gap down. This was about a 4% down day, right? So that's important level. That's a very, very important remember, especially the fact that, in March, I mean, the market was pretty much limiting down every day. And then so when we saw that initial push from the buyers, right? And I think a lot of people are looking for that retest, right? And that'll happen here. And so when we saw that 4% down day on this day, that was significant, because ever since then, and then bulls brought it right back up, right? And this became a bullish island reversal. Ever since then, we haven't seen that kind of selling pressure yet in one day selling pressure as much as we've seen back in early April, late March here. And that all happened with that moving average. You can see the moving average coming down, hit that tank, got back up. So we have not retested that longer term, that 125 SMA. So here, I think some people asked me before, so we're working with 30 EMA, that's the short-term moving edge, and then 70 SMA, setting it low, and then 125 SMA, setting it close. And that's what those three moving averages represent. We're kind of seeing some moving average cluster here. We've been seeing all these moving averages crossing back up to the upside. So you can see all these longer-term moving averages are rising to the upside. And when you see that, we want to give benefit of the doubt to the buyers. Yesterday we talked about the fan lines, right? We got that rising pivot, and then from then on we had that fan line support. So we got the support here, here, and here. So that's still the support. So we have a lot of support in this vicinity. Let's recap again. The gap was just filled. That's a support. We're back at that moving average, right? That's a support. We got that rising uptrend support. That's a support. And we got that also, that pivot, and then the horizontal. And so we have a lot of support in this vicinity. It's going to be difficult for bears to bring it down if they trying to continue marching lower, unless we see the best bet will be gapping it down and trying to retest, trying to challenge this up gap here as fast as they can, as fast as the sellers can do. Because sellers, they want to move things fast. They let the bulls hang around too long. They're gonna bring it back up. So we are in an interesting level here. Bears were able to bring it down towards the end of the day, right? Fill the gap. That's a good progress in the seller side. But now, can the buyers use this level to bring it back up? Or are the bears gonna come down, retest some of these levels right here? And that's the level. You can see how perfectly coinciding with the 125 SMA, right? That 120, that long-term moving average is just right at that level. So if bears bring it down, that will be the support. If we see a gap down, right? Let's just say we're gonna see a gap down tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised it will open somewhere right there, and then we'll see if that level acts as support or not. Bulls definitely want to take advantage of all the you really want to utilize this level right here, gap fill, that moving average in that vicinity. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some buying activity tomorrow morning, unless we see a gap down. Before I let you guys go, I want to look at the oscillator here real quick. So the oscillator, what we're seeing right now is oscillators are curling back down. So let's kind of examine what happens, because we did see, the oscillator got close to the top level there, so that will be overbought level. That's the overbought level. That's the overbought level, right? Correct? Yes. So how did the market react after the oscillator gap up to the overbought level and then started pulling back, which is like this, right? So let's examine this first one first, right? This one in early April. So you can see that this thing kind of started pulling back right there, and that's kind of what this was. So keep in mind, see now what we're seeing, you can see here, this right here, right there, and right here. The reason why I'm going to highlight that is because we saw a gap up here, right? That's a gap up, right? This was what? This was in April 7th. We saw a gap up, and then we trying to hold the gap. It failed. We filled the gap on April 7th. So you can see that. And that's after it hitting the overbought sentiment on this oscillator. All right, so the reason I want to highlight April 7th price action is because we have very, very similar activity going on here. So you got the overbought sentiment right there, And then that's when the market got up here, failed to fill this gap entirety of it. We discussed this yesterday and we've analyzed it, that bears done a great job making sure that the gap didn't get filled all the way. And I think because of that, because bulls did not fill that gap, the entirety of it, they let this bullish gap, right, being filled today. I actually think if the gap was filled all the way, we might have held the that 30 EMA. It might have even bounced a little bit. Anyway, and that happened, and then gap got filled towards the end of the day, which is very similar to, that was end of the day also. So you can see that's the next day. That's the next day. That was the end of the day of April 7th. And you can see at that time that oscillator was curling down. So we have a very, very similar activity going on here. This does not mean it's 100% guaranteed that it's going to do exactly what it did in April 7th or April 8th. But what it's saying is we have a similar sentiment going on here, and we have pretty good chance, unless bears can gap it down again, pretty good chance we may see some bounce in this vicinity. So you can see right here, and that's kind of what's been going on, and that's where the gap got filled, brought it up, so another gap, and then here too, we came down, filled the gap once again, got back up here. So there was a lot of up and down gappy actions back in April 7 and 6, 7, 8 here, but then again, gap getting filled is normally a support there, and pretty strong support actually. So, and especially that we're still dealing with longer term higher lows and higher highs again, right? So just quick recap, we're still in a bearish sentiment in the short term, in a micro term, right? We can see that we got that. You know what? Let's put out short term resistance there. We got that short term resistance there, right? Let's make that solid. So we got that short term resistance there. So we got bearish sentiment in short term while having a bullish sentiment in long term, and the gap just got filled. So let's see how it plays out tomorrow. I'll come back for you tomorrow after close. We'll follow up and we'll reassess the situation, right? You guys have a wonderful day. Good luck trading tomorrow.